So, I like to go to Dunkin' Donuts. It's one of the, I get a medium iced decaf. It doesn't matter what I get. That's not the point. The point is the story. I'm ordering my stuff. Some guy in front of me, he had his coffee, but he walks back up to the counter and he says, excuse me. He goes, this is delicious. This is really good, this drink. But if I can have a little more ice, but it's really, really good. You made this drink so good. I wanted to be like, buddy, you're making everyone uncomfortable now. There's no need to that. Just say, excuse me, would I be able to have a little more ice? Don't be like, but you made my drink so good. There's no reason for that kind of, some people have this extended conversation. There should be limitations. You're allowed, I don't know, a few phrases when you exchange with the folks who work there. Don't make everyone else uncomfortable. Steve Weiner here from GetRubix.com, and in keeping with our Intune security walkthroughs, today we're going to look at attack surface reduction rules. Well, I'll be honest, that's why I try not to talk when I'm in a customer service situation as the customer, unless I have to, of course.
GetRubix, solving for the modern workplace.
Okay, last time we were here, we were in Endpoint Security, and we went to antivirus, and we made some baseline antivirus policies. If you haven't seen that, you can check that out in the previous video. I'll put a link to it below. But now it's time to move on from antivirus to attack surface reduction. But here's a question. What is attack surface reduction? Well, here's the best way to look at it. Think of antivirus settings as things to help combat viruses. That, I guess, makes sense. Malware, anything that's, dangerous on the computer, the antivirus is going to come, and based on your settings, it's going to deal with the threat. But what we want to do is we want to start taking a more proactive approach. So think of attack surface reduction as a way to prevent threats that look like normal processes. Maybe these actions look like they're coming from Office apps or Adobe or just, pretty benign processes. That's kind of the point, right? So the whole idea of attack surface reduction is to mitigate those threats before they even become a problem. So let's get back into it. In Intune, you click on Endpoint Security, and you're going to see an option for attack surface reduction. And what we're going to do is we are going to create a policy. We're going to select Windows, because you also have the option for Windows Config Manager, which is the co-managed variant. And you can see there's a lot to attack surface reduction, right? A lot falls under it. So we're just going to focus on the rules. And then in the future, we're going to take a look at some of the other things here. Let's go ahead and create that. Call this baseline attack surface reduction rules. And this will be ASR rules in audit mode for pilot group. And we're going to talk about audit versus block once we get these rules going. So we're just going to set up a few basic ones. And if you want to understand what they are, because some of them might be a little confusing, the bubbles are pretty accurate. It'll tell you. So for example, the local security authority subsystem, this one basically locks it down. So the service can't be used for credential stealing. That's a pretty popular one. Now, when we look at the rules for these, so let's talk about these. Off is pretty self-explanatory. The rule is off. It's not doing anything. Block means it's going to work. These are the two binary ones, right? So if this is blocked, it means the action will be prevented. But audit and warn. So how do we understand that? Let's talk about the default action. Let's say you have a threat and your attack surface reduction rule is set to off, which is the default. So in that case, the threat was allowed. Not a good thing. Now let's go to audit. So when this is set to audit mode, what happens is the action takes place. In audit, it's just monitored. That gives us a chance to see what would have been tripped up. And this is really helpful for situations where you're creating these rules and you're not sure of their impact on a certain group. So we are going to want to monitor them first. The one thing to be aware of course, is the threat will still be allowed in that situation. Okay, in the warn scenario, the user is notified, right? So a threat happens. We have this set to warn. the user has the option to proceed or block. So you have two real outcomes here. So if the user is warned and chooses to block the threat, you're all good. The threat is blocked. But of course, the opposite can happen also, and the threat can be allowed. So, I guess it depends on the situation there. Your best possible outcome is the threat is found, the rule is set to block, it's actually blocked, and you've blocked the threat. So everything's blocked. So like I said, it depends on the situation. It's generally recommended to, when you start these, let's start by putting them in audit mode. That'll let us see who's affected, when they would have been, flagged, kind of like the way we would do for conditional access and report only. So, and then I'll show you how to monitor, right? So that eventually you can decide which ones you want to keep and then put into the warn or block mode. So I'm going to put these in audit. A few other ones, block JavaScript or VB script from launching downloaded executable content. We're going to do that in audit. And there are certain times when, you're going to see these per rule exclusions. That means, for example, you're saying block JavaScript or VB from launching any executable content. But let's say you had something specific and you had a C program data, my app.exe that you knew about and you did want excluded, right? You can do that here. Right, so you can put in individual ones or you can import a list of them. So, we'll probably get more into that later, but just know that if there is a specific process, you see this a lot with developers, things like that. So, yeah, a few more, we'll audit that. We'll go ahead and we'll set the psexec and WMI commands. We'll set to audit. And probably a good idea to do the executable content from emails. Yeah, we're going to audit that. Okay, so we have what we want in audit mode. Okay, we're going to assign these to a group I created called ASR pilot group. So this is devices or users I'll put in. And basically, they'll be the guinea pigs for testing this out so I can see what's going on. So let's save that. Okay, so the easiest way to monitor these rules is in the security console, security.microsoft.com. They have some built-in reports for this. So if you scroll down to reports, you can see attack surface reduction rules under endpoints is built right in. So this will be where you ultimately come in and see what kind of activity you're getting before we're disrupting, the end users. Attack surface reduction is powerful because it's proactive, but when something's that powerful, it also means we have to be careful, right? Very common scenario. You have devs in the environment and they're working on things that aren't very common, and that's going to contain, different exe files, a lot of scripts, things that actually are benign, right? That are doing what they're supposed to do. So that's why it's really important that we think about our groups. And the good thing is we can have different groups for different rules. We want to definitely use audit mode so we can see what's happening before we release it to the general population. So let me know your thoughts. Are you using attack surface reduction rules? Jump in the Discord. You know how we do it. We'll be seeing you.